Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the program. We've talked a lot about Leon Black, Apollo Global, and their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein as of late. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. As one of my favorite hotels, one of my favorite properties, a property that I've worked at, a property that my family has worked at, some of my best friends have worked at, has now been purchased by Apollo Global and Leon Black. That's right, folks. The Venetian and Palazzo has been sold to Apollo Global and REIT. Now, Apollo Global has tried their hand in the gaming business earlier. They were involved with Caesars, and it didn't work out so well for them. Now they're being handed the jewel of Las Vegas, the top property in Las Vegas, where employees are treated better than any other employee on the Strip. And they're going to be in charge of that whole entire operation that includes the Venetian and the Palazzo. So Sands Las Vegas is basically gonzo. And what the Sands plans on doing now, the remnants from Sheldon Adelson's baby, well, they're going to focus on China. They're going to focus on their properties in Macau. Do you know why? Because they see Macau rebounding quicker than Las Vegas. It's not a very good outlook for us in Vegas, honestly. When you have the biggest, most prominent company, and I don't want to hear shit about the MGM, okay? I'm talking about a company that actually is worthwhile, and that's what the Sands was under Adelson. As much as I dislike Adelson as a human being, he treated the employees of the Sands very well. So I highly doubt that is going to occur under these scumbags at Apollo Global. And furthermore, you can guarantee that your boy won't be spending one single dollar at the Venetian ever again, as long as Apollo Global's involved. You know, I have made it a point to avoid doing business with anybody who was even slightly involved with Jeffrey Epstein. I won't do business with banks that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. I was offered a credit card from Barclays on a flight recently. I told them to stuff it, and that's just my personal stance, right? I don't expect everybody to do that. But me personally, I'm not doing business with these people. And I don't care that it's my favorite hotel in Las Vegas. I won't be going to the Venetian anymore. I won't be going to the Palazzo anymore. Because at some point, enough is enough. And I'll tell you what, folks, I have reached my enough is enough point. So we're going to dive into that sale a little bit with an article from the Wall Street Journal. Headline: Sands to sell Las Vegas properties for $6.25 billion to Apollo Global and REIT. You know what's so sad about that? Leon Black could afford to pay for this himself and still have $4 or $5 billion left over. Think about the wealth, folks. I know most of you out there, or a lot of you anyway, have been to Las Vegas. And if you haven't been, I know you've seen it on TV. And I know you have seen the Venetian property and how beautiful it is. And how it's considered one of the top properties going. Now think about how much money you would have to not only buy that property, but get the Palazzo along with it and Sands Corp. And still have $5 or $6 billion, that's with a B, left over as some chump change. That's how rich Leon Black is. That's the man who needed Jeffrey Epstein's advice, folks, okay? Just go ahead and stew on that for a little while. Chew on that for a little while. Toss it around in the old mouth and see how sour it tastes. I don't know how the Gaming Commission could even okay something like this. Executives have said the casino operator seeks to invest in Singapore, Macau casinos, which generate most of the revenue. And again, that's a bellwether for us in Las Vegas. It's it's dangerous and scary to think about. Las Vegas has always had the draw of being that jewel, right? You come here, you gamble, you have a blast, you're hanging out with a bunch of people, you're at the pool parties, you're on the floor playing dice, everyone's hanging out. Now that's gone, right? The social distancing, the masks, the intimacy of it all is gone. Who wants to come and throw dice with a bunch of plastic partitions separating people? That's not what people want to come to Vegas for. So I could see how, financially speaking, it's a better idea to invest in Macau because the Chinese government don't give a one damn. They're about to open everything up. And if you think that's not going to occur, you are not paying attention because this is a situation now where other states and cities might be, headed towards recovery. But when we wake up to news like this and the crown jewel of Las Vegas is being sold to a firm, right? Not even a person, really, being sold to Apollo Global. It's not good. I miss the days in Las Vegas where these casinos had owners, not corporations acting as owners. Vegas used to be a fantastic place, folks, where you could walk into a casino and if you're spending money, you can guarantee you're going to be taken care of. Drinks, food, shows, rooms, all of it. Now, if you go into a casino and you spend a few grand, you're lucky if you get some drinks. And I'm not even being a smartass when I say that. Even in the sports book, we started to have absurd rules for free drinks. And personally, I don't even understand how that's even a thing. How could you even stop the comp system in Vegas? But they have. Everything went corporate. And when everything went corporate, things started to go down the tubes. This article was authored by Dave Sebastian. Las Vegas Sands Corp agreed to sell its Las Vegas properties to Apollo Global Management Incorporated and a real estate investment trust for about $6.25 billion as the casino operator exits the gambling hub to focus on its core Asia operations. And now if we go back to 2012, Leon Black and Sheldon Adelson were engaged in a bit of a war. See, Apollo Global was banking on online gambling, online gaming, and obviously Sheldon Adelson was against it. So they locked horns in Washington, D.C. and created, all kinds of lobbies and you name it. And they really went head to head. And now, fast forward to 2021, and the sometimes rivals, well, Adelson's gone, and Leon Black swoops in to pick his corpse. I don't think it's a coincidence, right? It's Leon Black showing up with his, narcissism again to stand on the corpse, not really, right? Not obviously the corpse, but standing on the corpse of Sands Corp and raising his fist in victory as he purchases it. Meanwhile, this dude shouldn't be purchasing anything. Apollo Global shouldn't even have the buying power right now to do any of these moves. But here we are, right? Sands sale of the Venetian Resort and its convention center comes as the COVID-19 pandemic has roiled the casino industry with temporary shutdowns, reduced travel, and limited occupancies. Hopes for a recovery this year depend on how many tourists and business travelers will return following the distribution of vaccines. And I don't think that's going to be enough, right? It has to be an intimate experience in Las Vegas, or people can go to their local casino if they just have a bug, right? If they just want to scratch the itch of gambling a little bit. Everybody has local casinos nowadays, it seems. Las Vegas has to be more than that. Las Vegas has to be an event. You have to come to Vegas and know that it's on. You can go down on that casino floor at any time of the day or night, and it's basically a party. That's what people are paying for. That's why people are coming to Vegas. And if you can't do that, if that's not going to occur, then people are not going to fly 3,000 or 4,000 miles to do the same thing they could do in Atlantic City. The casino operator had said in October that it was considering a sale of the Las Vegas assets. After the death of founder Sheldon Adelson in January, Sands executives said the company would continue to invest in its Singapore and Macau casinos, which generate most of the company's revenue. Think about that for a minute, too. The money that's coming into Macau is obscene. I mean, there's a ton of money coming into Vegas, right? But the money being generated in Macau is just insane. And you just have to look at the population, right? Billions of people right there in the vicinity. You have India, you have China, billions and billions of people. So it's a huge market for the gaming industry, and especially if you have the in with the Chinese government, right? You're going to be able to open your shit up. You're going to be able to keep it open. As long as that money's flowing up to the oligarchs and the communists in charge in China, shit's going to be gully. As we announce the sale of the Venetian Resort, we pay tribute to Mr. Adelson's legacy while starting a new chapter in this company's history. Chief Executive Robert Goldstein said Wednesday, "Asia remains the backbone of this company, and our developments in Macau and Singapore are the center of our attention." And this would never have happened if Adelson didn't die. Now, they might have focused more on Asia, right? Big money there. But Adelson's baby was Las Vegas. He loved this place as far as being the kingmaker here. Owned the newspaper, owned Sands, was really, when I say it, I'm not even kidding around, was really a big-time kingmaker here. So it would have never happened if Adelson was alive. I can't see him piecing this off. So I guess we will see moving forward if the Sands has any footprint left in Nevada or Las Vegas, but it certainly doesn't look like that from this statement. Sands plans to keep its headquarters in Las Vegas. A company spokesman said the company had been considering expansion opportunities in New York and Texas, Sands executives have said, and it will also explore opportunities in online gambling. Oh, well, that makes sense. They'll keep the office here, right? And they'll probably keep their business license here. There's no state tax, so why would they move it? You know, they're trying to make as much money as possible, so that kind of makes sense from that perspective. But as far as having a footprint in the gaming world, I don't think we're going to see that from the Sands here anymore. I really think you're going to see them pivot fully and focus on their Macau operations because as they've stated here, and as we can see from the earnings reports, Macau is definitely bringing cash in hand over fist to the coffers of Sands Corp. So it's not shocking that they're focusing on Macau. What's really shocking to me is that Sands is pulling out completely and that Leon Black is pulling up to the corpse to pick it clean. Shares of Sands hit a 52-week high Wednesday and recently rose 1.3% to $65.80. There was a point in time, folks, during the collapse, the financial collapse, where stocks of Sands were like $2. I wish I would have been smarter back then. I knew that it would make a comeback, right? But I never thought it would bounce back up into the 60s. Now, I'm curious to see where this stock ends up when all is said and done. The sale could lead Sands to return some of that money to shareholders, likely through dividends, which had been paused since last year, Jefferies analyst David Katz said. And if you own stock in Sands, that's definitely a good thing, right? Always nice to get a little bit of bread at the end of the day from your investments. So I think that we'll definitely see the Sands in the short term get a bounce from this. But in the long term, I don't think that Apollo Global and Leon Black know how to play the Las Vegas game, folks. I really don't think they know. And they might think they have power and they might think that they're the big dog on the block. But local Vegas politics are a whole different world. You want to talk about the wild, wild west, bro? You ever see Godfather 2 with the senator and Michael Corleone? Michael Corleone, when he walks in there and he's trying to press Michael Corleone for some dough, right? And Michael Corleone's like, yeah, okay, here's my offer. You'll have nothing. That's how the game's played in Nevada, folks, and I'm not even kidding around. We have some of the most corrupt politicians going. I mean, Harry Reid, ring a bell? Apollo said it sees the Las Vegas properties as having exposure to categories positioned for recovery and long-term growth, such as hospitality, meeting events, gaming, and entertainment. Look, there's no doubt that the Venetian is a top-notch destination. I can't be any more clear about how much I love the property. But that's not going to change the fact that it's owned by Leon Black, and every single time I walk into that place and put 1 cent into a machine, I'm fattening his pocket. So that's not going to work for me. This investment also underscores our conviction in a strong recovery for Las Vegas as vaccines usher in a reopening of leisure and travel in the United States and across the world, Apollo partner Alex Van Hoek said. So now we have two of the biggest jerk-off companies in the world running Las Vegas, basically. We have Apollo Global in charge of our flagship properties here, the Venetian and the Palazzo. And then right down the strip a little bit of a way, you have the flagship properties of the scumbags at the MGM who furloughed all of their workers, canceled all of their health insurance. Oh yeah, and did I mention the October 1st fiasco? So it's nice to see that Las Vegas is in such good hands, right? These two megacorps running things. If you folks were thinking about coming to Las Vegas and getting yourself a couple of free drinks or anything on the cuff, I'd reevaluate that decision, or I'd go to a property owned by a single owner. Now, Virgin opening up, that's probably going to be a decent spot. Used to be the Hard Rock. Now, all of the employees pretty much from the Hard Rock are getting their jobs back there, so that's definitely a good thing. I'm interested to see how that looks when all is said and done. But the flagship properties of the Strip, the MGM and the Venetian, are in the hands of like legit villains, bro. We're talking about like Lex Luthor type villains. Apollo has previously invested in Las Vegas casinos. In 2008, Apollo and TPG completed a $30 billion leveraged buyout of Harrah's Entertainment Incorporated, which loaded the company with debt on the eve of Las Vegas' longest and deepest recession. The company renamed itself Caesars Entertainment Corp. And in 2015 filed for bankruptcy protection of its largest unit, which had an $18 billion debt. So again, Apollo Global has already took this dive, like I was talking about with Caesars and Harrah's, and it failed. What makes anyone think they're not going to run the Venetian into the ground? That's what they're going to do. They're going to run it into the ground, and then they'll piece it off, because at the end of the day, that is all Leon Black is, and that is all Apollo is, a group of vultures. Apollo recently has been increasing its bets on the gambling industry. The private equity giant agreed to buy Canadian casino operator Great Canadian Gaming Corporation in November and eyed UK bookmaker William Hill PLC last year before deciding against making an offer, which I'm happy about. I do a lot of my sports wagering at William Hill, and it would be a nightmare for me to go and remove all of my money from my accounts and all of that shit and move it somewhere else. But I'm telling you folks right now, I will be damned if I give these people one single dime. Have they not stolen enough from us? Under the Sands deal, funds tied to Apollo will buy subsidiaries that hold the operating assets and liabilities of Sands Las Vegas business for about $1.5 billion in cash and $1.2 billion in seller financing in the form of a term loan credit and security agreement, Sands said. Nice to see that these guys can go get loans for billions. Have you tried to go get a loan lately? Yeah, pretty sure it didn't work out so well if you don't have a stunning credit score and a great debt-to-income ratio and. But these guys, who have already made a disastrous move with Caesars, no problem, we'll give you a couple billion more. No worries, old Leon Black. REIT Vici Properties Incorporated will buy subsidiaries that hold the real estate and real estate-related assets of the Venetian for about $4 billion in cash. Oh yeah, no big deal. I'm just going to show up with $4 billion. Hey, you got that Gucci bag with that money? Really? $4 billion in cash to hold the assets, huh? This is going to be a disaster, folks. I can't even quantify how big of a disaster this is for Sands. The Apollo funds will also enter into a long-term lease pact with Vici for the properties, the company said. The Venetian Resort comprises a 35-story hotel tower with some 3,000 suites. And look, I can't even lie. The Venetian's a beautiful property. If you've never stayed there before, I mean, it is very, very nice, very clean, very up to date. Everything has always been top notch at the Venetian. So I'm very curious to see how quickly things deteriorate under these knuckleheads. a 12-story tower with about 1,000 suites, and the 50-story Palazzo Tower, which has about 3,000 suites, according to its 2019 annual securities filing. Now, my old company, CG, Cantor Gaming, we owned the property at the Venetian, the sports book inside of the Venetian and the Palazzo, and it was a gem, a beautiful place. I'm talking not one single dollar was spared when this place was built. And it has always been a huge destination for some of the most professional gamblers in the whole entire world. And I can only imagine what this place is going to look like moving forward. I mean, wow. The resort has about 225,000 square feet of gambling space, the company said in the filing. The Sands Expo and Convention Center has about 1.2 million gross square feet of exhibit and meeting space, the company said. It also has about a 1.1 million square feet of meeting and conference facility that links the center with the Venetian Resort. Yeah, they have a huge conference center over there, and never mind the convention center. I'm talking about just the conference center within the property where they could hold breakout meetings and, corporate events, concerts, stuff like that. I mean, when I tell you that this is a top-notch diamond property, that's really what it is. And that's why it's so disheartening that these scumbags have bought it. The Sands and Mr. Adelson have long been connected with Las Vegas. Mr. Adelson launched Computer Dealers Exposition, or Comdex, which became a hugely successful trade exhibit held in Las Vegas and other cities. In 1988, needing space for his own exhibition center in Las Vegas to accommodate growing crowds, he bought the Sands Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip for $110 million, opening up a new line of business. His bet was that conventions and trade shows were a surer way to keep rooms filled than a pure focus on gambling, and he was right. The trade shows and conventions and all of that stuff have added a whole different flavor to Las Vegas, and it brings in a ton of revenue. And of course, what do those people do while they're here for conference? That's right, go down and gamble, buy food, all of that other stuff. So the conferences and all of these events were a very good idea. And as much as I'm not a fan of Sheldon Adelson, the guy revolutionized the way things were done in Las Vegas. He tore down the Sands and built in its place the Venetian Resort, featuring a canal replica with singing gondoliers. And those days are probably coming to a swift end. I mean, with Apollo Global now swooping in and purchasing the Sands, I have no doubt in my mind that we won't see them holding on to it for long. If history is a guide, and the way they absolutely destroyed and ruined Caesars, well, if I was part of the company here in Vegas or Sands in general or a stockholder, I don't know, I'd be a little bit nervous about what's going to occur, because Apollo Global, folks, is not in the business of building. They're in the business of picking at corpses. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. As for later on tonight, I'll probably be back with a daily drop if we got some news to talk about. If there's nothing new, then I'll probably just do a couple of flashback episodes. We'll see, one way or the other. Either way, folks, I hope you all have a great day, and I will either be back tonight or first thing in the morning. Have a great day, everyone.